5 potential coaches for Perth Glory moving into the remainder of this A-League season. And number 1, Jacob, is the man that pretty much everyone has been talking about. We've been talking about him before this news even dropped, and that's John Aloisi.
Yep.
He's in his little hibernation hole down at Western United. Who knows if he's still being paid as an employee or what's going on or what the contract situation is. But the fact is that he is an in-demand coach who currently is not at least coaching a team in the A-League and Perth Glory. In addition to the Central Coast Mariners, which the reports are is that they offered him that job and he said no. So Perth Glory is now the other club that is available for someone like John Aloisi to step into. He does have relationships with a lot of the people in charge at the club, which may help. They have invested in an improved playing squad and apparently facilities as well, although Matt tells us that it's been a bit of a drag in terms of transferring from those facilities. So who knows whether that's in full effect yet or not. But for John Aloisi, I really struggle to see why this is an attractive proposition for him at the moment. It just feels like his stock is so high, and with those kind of inklings of an idea that it's maybe not really the coach's fault, Perth Glory, they've been in this way for a little while now. Why would someone with his reputation at the moment step into a role like that?
He probably wouldn't, to be honest. I think that's just fanciful thinking, perhaps on behalf of Perth fans, to be like, wouldn't it be great to have Aloisi here? I just don't think that it's worth. I mean, the one thing I can see, and I saw it mentioned somewhere. Apologies, because I can't remember who brought it up, but the idea that potentially, of course, Western United aren't technically dead. They're still in hibernation, like you say, right? And there's the potential that if they sort things out, they can come back again next year. So I've seen some people suggesting, maybe he takes on a contract till the end of the season with Perth. And if it's all as bad as everybody's making it out to be, he can just go back to Western United. But if it's good, then, he can stay on. And, if Western United falls through, he's got a job and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, from that perspective, I can kind of understand that. But surely there's got to be other propositions outside of Australia, right, for him. I feel like he's a good enough coach that there's got to be options that would be preferable to either the Mariners or the Glory, or sticking with Western United for a season, not doing anything, right? So it just, I don't know. I don't see it happening. I'd be surprised to see it happen. And, I'm sure Perth fans would be extremely happy if it did. But yeah, I just don't quite see why he would take that risk. Like, it just seems a little bit needless. He's already in a bad enough situation. It's yes, okay, it's a club that is playing this season, but it's not like he's inheriting a really good, really good opportunity with Perth, right? They've done a lot of their spending already in the last off season. Under Zdrilic going, these are the players I want, this is who I'm going to get in. He's inheriting a different squad. It just does not seem like it would be a smart move for him. But I'd be surprised.
Do you reckon if they had their pick, he's number 1 on the list of, at least to bring it down a little bit, the available Australian coaches?
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe excluding Edge.
Well, I think that's... I don't know, is that more or less realistic than Aloisi going there? I'm not sure at this point, but no, I think he'd definitely be towards the top. He's available. He's still in Australia. He knows the league very, very well. And I think it would be a little bit silly not to kind of pursue that opportunity from Perth's end. But yeah, whether there's that reciprocal interest or not, I'd be surprised.
All right, number 2, another previous championship winning coach in the A-League, in Patrick Kisnorbo. Obviously, hasn't had an amazing time over in Japan, so he is a free agent. He's obviously won the championship with City and all those Premier's plates, and had those little 7 games at victory as well on the other side of the Derby Divide, which was a fascinating story for all. But he is available, and reportedly, according to Marco Monteverde, is another name that Perth Glory are actively pursuing.
That would be an interesting one, wouldn't it? PK coming back. It's kind of, it makes more sense for him than it does for Aloisi, I think, where he's coming from kind of that failed venture overseas. Didn't work out for him in Japan, like you mentioned, but he's coming back to a place where he knows that he can compete, where he knows what it takes to put a good team together, to win silverware. And, like his character or not, right? If you're Victory fan, probably going to have a sour taste in your mouth seeing his name again. But like it's no denying that while at least with City he was a very good coach. So there's that opportunity for him to come back, and we're talking about it with players all the time, right? Like, X or Y or Z should come back to the A League and reignite their career. But I think, obviously that same pathway exists for coaches as well. And PK is one of those ones who, has kind of failed to kick on overseas in any real meaningful way. So it could be an opportunity for him to come back. And like I said, I think it would be more likely than Aloisi, just on the basis of the situation he finds himself in, where he kind of feels like he needs to do something to get back into it again. Whereas with Aloisi, it's like, well, I'm in the absolute worst position possible, so I can kind of pick and choose what I want from here.
Yeah, and I think for Patrick Kisnorbo, it's definitely more attractive because he needs an in somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And his overseas stints in both France and Japan have not ended the way he wanted. So this would theoretically be coming back to the A-League for a third time, which is interesting because he has had a lot of success in the A-League. He won those premiership plates. He won a championship at City.
But again, how much of that is down to the backing of City, right? Of like, they're always consistently putting together a decent squad regardless of who's the coach. Whereas with Perth, it's like what we've been saying is how much of it is Zrillich's fault and how much of it is the fault of the players not being good enough, where if PK comes in, is he going to be enough to actually right that ship despite all of his, experience and his accomplishments in the league? Like, how much of that can you put down to the situation he was in at City, where, they've got plenty of money to spend and kind of that pull and that draw that realistically very few A-League clubs do to get good quality international signings. So
yep, no, I'm with you. Number 3, Nick Montgomery. Now this is another name that's been floated about by people in the space. Obviously the championship winning manager at the Central Coast Mariners. He's been jumping around with Ange at different assistant jobs over in Europe, so that tutelage is invaluable, I'm sure. But it kind of leads back into the same point of, is this an attractive opportunity for the coach? There's no doubt that he has credentials that Perth Glory would find attractive. But is he at a point in his career as a previous championship winning coach where he'd want to come back to this Perth Glory side? Now, he has been out of head coaching for a little while and he did get kind of thrusted into that position. So maybe he felt like he had to go away and have that more educational experience as an assistant under someone so credentialed as Postecoglou, and then build off what he learnt in that championship year with the Mariners and then add that little bit of education on top of it, in which case getting back to a head coaching role in the A-League. And again, as much as we talk about behind the scenes, it is a good playing squad. The playing squad at Perth Glory is good. So having those pieces of the puzzle available to you for someone at a point in Nick Montgomery's career may be actually an attractive opportunity.
Yeah, and it's that case of, like you said, he's not been in head coaching now for a while. He did have, I think, was he head coach at Hibs for a little bit after the Mariners stint? I can't remember how long he was there for. I feel like
you keep chatting, I'll find out.
I feel like he went there after the Mariners, but yeah, it's been at least 2-3 years since he's been a head coach. So it's that's the kind of thing it's difficult to get back into, especially for someone who has been a head coach previously. Then moving back into an assistant role and kind of that bouncing around. But I feel like his options are kind of almost keep the role that he's got as an assistant coach in those European leagues or those bigger leagues, or come back here to the A-League or similar levels and try and get a head coaching role and kind of not start again, because of course he had that start with the Mariners, did a very good job, won them the championship, but it's kind of has that knowledge now and has come away with plenty of experience. Okay, think what you want of Postecoglou's system and his style and all of that sort of stuff, but there's no denying that working in a Premier League environment is would be massively beneficial to a coach. So he kind of comes back with all of that pre-game knowledge. It's like that thing of if you could go back to when you were 5 years old but you have all the knowledge that you have now, would you do it? I think that's kind of the situation Montgomery's in, where it's like, do you go back to the A-League and start again as a head coach, with all the knowledge that you now have as an assistant, or do you just keep trying to make it in Europe and keep trying to work up that ladder there as an assistant and just keep grinding? It's an interesting situation for him to be in. I think, again, much more likely than Aloisi, and I think potentially even more likely than Kisnorbo. Just because, I don't know, there's something about Kisnorbo. I feel like he wouldn't come back. I don't know. There's something about him that the way that he left from the Victory after just 7 games, and just kind of split. It just kind of felt like I don't want to come back here, right? Like I'm almost too good for this league. Obviously it's shown that that didn't work out for him, but I don't see him coming back. Whereas with Montgomery, I think that if he wants to become a head coach again, at least sooner rather than later, he's got to take this kind of opportunity where he's not going to get it in Europe. So, I think he would be a good fit as well for Perth. I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to come in and try and be revolutionary and change things up massively, like Zdrilic tried, right? Where he's like, we're going to implement a brand new system and all of that. Okay, yes, he's been under Ange for a few years, so there's a possibility that kind of, self-confidence has kind of seeped in there where he's like, well, no, actually I have got a way and we're going to play it this way. I still feel like he would come back at least as a head coach and kind of understand the situation that he's coming into and go, right, okay, we've got to work within these limitations, like he did with the Mariners, right? Where it's not like they're exactly the richest club in the league. So I think he would be a good fit, and I could see it happening. I think it would be good for the club. I think it would be good for him as well to get that foot back in the door of head coaching.
Yeah, so you're right. The Hibernian offer was actually what took him away from the Mariners, because that wasn't too far out from the start of the season.
Yeah, because then Jacko came in with a couple of weeks or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, maybe like a month or something before, and then took them into the AFC Cup that year, I think it would have been. So that was the role that took him away, but it's going to be interesting to see because it's probably linked to what Postecoglou is going to do as well.
That's
true. He went in
about
a month after he got sacked. I'm looking at the dates in front of me. A month after he got sacked from Hibs, Ange brought him into Tottenham, obviously went all the way through it, and then continued with him to Nottingham Forest. And I reckon when the kind of new season was rolling around, there was probably that plan of, him and Jedinak as well, and that other core group with Ange to go with him to the next job and then keep on for probably 2-3 years or whatever it is. But now this has ended so abruptly after 39 days, of course. Who knows what the next plan will be. So maybe that's also dependent on Ange.
Yeah, it's that situation of he can continue on as an assistant in Europe and in those kind of leagues, and almost kind of follow Ange a bit like an Arteta Guardiola situation, right? Where you just kind of sit as the assistant for a while and learn a lot, and then you come away with it and you can, it's the student defeating the master kind of thing, right? That's always the possibility for him as well, but it kind of depends on the decision Ange makes and where he heads next. If he heads anywhere, he might take a break, he might whatever. So that's going to weigh into it as well.
All right, 3 managers down. Now, these are all people so far that we've named not only A-League managers, but A-League championship winners. The following two are neither of those two things, because number 4 is the current Heidelberg United manager, John Anastasiadis. Now, he's been obviously the standout coach at NPL level this season. He won Coach of the Year in Victoria. He took Heidelberg to the Australia Cup final, and they're going pretty good at the moment in the Australian Championship as well. 3 for 3 so far, perfect record, and they absolutely smashed South Hobart on the weekend. So, in fact, as you're listening to this, I believe Friday night when they play, if they win that, they'll become the first team that's qualified for the knockouts. So, just goes to show how well they're doing. He comes highly rated. He had that time under John Aloisi as an assistant manager at Western United as well. So, he has had that little taste of the A-League, and in interviews, I think it was his pre-cup final piece that he did, he openly responded to a question about his desire to coach in the A-League and in that professional environment. Now, the word out of Heidelberg is that the environment of that club isn't actually too different from an A-League club, especially during this kind of championship sprint in terms of the amount of training sessions and the effort they're putting into games and stuff. So it may be in terms of operationally, at least at this point in time, it's not a massive step up, but in terms of the results, there's no one better at state level that is putting their name forward better than this Johnny A. Yeah,
he's been tremendous with Heidelberg. Obviously a cup final, now cruising in the championship. there's no denying that in terms of, if you're looking to bring somebody up, right, and give them that opportunity rather than looking at, those coaches who are already kind of established, he is about as perfect a candidate as you could expect. My problem with it is, would he go now? Like, because the championship is, it would be very difficult, I feel, for him to leave in the middle of the championship like this, with Heidelberg.
I think he would.
They are. You reckon he would?
Yeah. I think this opportunity, the professional opportunity, is just something that is rare if they come knocking for him. As much as it's the sentimental idea of finishing off the season with Heidelberg is very romantic, for him, you just have to snatch that opportunity when it's presented in front of you. And maybe not completely, but I think there'd be a large portion of Heidelberg supporters who, yes, it'd be annoying if you're left in the middle of the competition, but I think he'd actually go with a lot of their blessings as a bit of a thank you for what he's done for the club. If we got to like the quarterfinals and then all of a sudden he gets pulled out and then they lose in the next week, then maybe that's a little bit of a different story. But on a personal level, I feel like you just have to snatch it up.
I don't disagree with that, but I also think as well, could he be thinking, okay, what if I win the championship? Is that going to help my stocks any more than where I'm at already? See it out, and then what other jobs are going to open up, right? Is it just a case of taking the first job that's available? Although I think I have seen him linked with the Mariners job as well, at different points.
Yep.
Is it just a case of, I'm just going to take the first job available and get my foot in the door? Or is it a case of, right, I'm going to win the championship, be a championship winning manager, be an Australia Cup finalist with an NPL team, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, Ufuk-Tale's gone. Oh, what's this? Knock, here's Sydney FC,
See, I think because you got to judge the step as well. Like, is Sydney FC a team that is going to pluck someone from NPL, or are they? Like, I think
that's true.
If that role, and we'll talk about them in a second, but if like Sydney or Victory came available in the next 2 months, all of a sudden those are opportunities that John Aloisi is going, yeah, I reckon I want those, and then that offers like that next tier down for someone like an Anastasiadis, and I think Perth, compared to the Mariners, definitely have the highest ceiling in terms of squad to what they could achieve this season. Yeah,
I agree with that. It's a good point about, is a bigger club going to look to bring him up? But then if, we're all talking about the level that these NPL clubs are now competing at, and you even mentioned there, operationally, Heidelberg is operating at this point in time like an A-League club. Is it that big of a step?
He plays an attractive brand.
Exactly.
Maybe it's like a Vincent Kompany situation. Dominate in the championship. Literally in England, and then get the buying job. Okay, I've talked myself into it apparently.
So I feel like, he's a very smart guy as well. Like, he'll be thinking about all of these things, I'm sure. And, is there that possibility in a few months' time with the championship offers back to be like, okay, now we can really get some, high quality jobs, not just, the first ones that come to us. It's, and it'll be interesting to see.
All right. And the final name, number 5 on our list, is one you may not have heard of, Matt Sparrow, who is the current head coach of Bayswater City, the one WA representative in the Australian Championship this season. Coming off the back of, I think they're on 7 points after 3 games, so 2 1-0 wins at home against West Apia in round 3 as well, which is, Apia one of the teams off the competition, and Matt Sparrow was able to knock him off. I will confess, definitely don't have the knowledge on him compared to the other 4, but he's definitely being named that's talked about out of the championship already as, we talked about this on the Second Ball podcast in the last couple of weeks, but as someone that bigger NPL leagues and some of the big clubs, so someone from potentially New South Wales or Victoria, are probably looking at him for that step up. And that's not being disrespectful to Bayswater City at all, but we know that in terms of the concentration of money and the real footballers fighting for professional contracts, that is in Victoria and New South Wales. And hopefully that changes over the course of the next decade and 20 years with this championship. But that is the reality. So it's a little out of the box for sure, but if you're looking for someone who knows the local talent and knows the area, there's probably not anyone else too better credentialed than Matt Sparrow at the moment.
Yeah, I wouldn't really hate it all that much. This kind of idea of getting the local guy in. It'd be very kind of almost similar to the way Colviet was brought in. Colviet was brought in, in like the back end of a season. I think it was the COVID season. Hechan Verbeek was fired because he was underperforming, so they brought in the local guy who knew the area well, knew the local players well. Brought him in, and obviously went on to be Adelaide's longest serving manager, despite very limited. He was like the youth head coach for a while at Adelaide United, but very limited head coaching experience, and kind of went on to be a very, very good coach for Adelaide. So it could kind of be a similar situation here, but you're getting somebody in who's got a bit of experience at that kind of semi-professional level as a head coach, knows the area well, knows the people well. And from a club identity perspective as well, it's always good to kind of tap into that thing, especially with clubs like Perth where they're very isolated. It's like this is a club for the people of West Australia and stuff like that. So it could be that could be a fun pick. I wouldn't hate it, to be honest. Like you said, I don't know too much about him either in terms of the style of football that he plays. I've seen obviously bits of them in the Championship this season, but I think that it's a very low risk kind of signing, especially if you're just looking. If the coach you really want isn't available, and you're just needing somebody to kind of take the reins for a while, you could, do you want to get somebody in who, at least is going to feel like they are compelled to do well because this is a big step up for them? Or do you just want to get that interim guy in and just kind of stay with the status quo for a while, right? So I think, if somebody really, really good that Perth really likes isn't available, well, you've got this local option here who is going to have that kind of desire to push on and do a good job for you. And even if it doesn't work out, oh well, no risk. It's not like you've gone and got a really big name and it's failed spectacularly again. So I think it could be a decent option for them.